I want
Didn't
to talk
happen.
about a couple of overall thoughts about this event.
Yes.
Before we
Yes.
start digging into the products. And
Okay.
so again, this is just me as a viewer, right? And I don't have context for stuff I haven't seen, products, etc. But there were two things that really stuck out to me. One was a lot of Apple Intelligence, and two was that this event felt like it was dragging in a few places. The Apple Intelligence thing is interesting to me because it was part of every product that they could talk about it, especially the phones, really. It's part of the phone part. And it's in all of the ads and stuff that they're showing, which is super interesting to me because a lot of the features that they have in the ads and in the promo videos, they're nebulous in both quality and timeline.
Yes.
And they're even talking about the personal context. We don't know, there is a scenario where that I genuinely believe is possible that the personal context powered Siri first appears after the iPhone 17 is shipped.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think that is an early next year thing. I think they talked about October for the first round and December for a second round, and then there's more coming. So I think they've got a plan to every couple of months ship a new set of features as a part of their OS plan.
But they haven't given us that information, right? So maybe I've gone a bit far in there, but I could imagine we get up towards WWDC time before even that begins to start, before we get everything.
I think everything that they've announced at WWDC will ship before WWDC next year, and I think probably most of it will ship.
But nevertheless,
probably by March.
Take out my weird timeline because we're going down a road that we don't need to. It is really peculiar, odd in terms of Apple's marketing to so heavily promote features that we don't even have a date for. A lot of the ads that they're showing for the iPhone 16 or whatever, it was that one of people in a train station, everybody's using Apple Intelligence, and only one of the demos was going to be any of those features available that we know of in the next couple of months. And
in October.
I just think that's really, I don't know, it was interesting and a little strange. But I guess that's just the position they found themselves in, and that's just the way it's going to be for this cycle. And then the dragging, I think part of my feeling about this event, which was really weird, which was how much they were talking about things we either already knew about, which I understand that happens always, but also small updates to existing products.
Yeah, I have a theory about this, but you're right. They did a whole section about the Apple Watch Ultra 2, which is not new. They did a new color and new bands. They did a whole thing about the AirPods Pro 2, which is a new software feature, but not new hardware. And
but they also
for the new hardware,
time talking about that product and what it already does, as well as adding on those new interesting things.
Right. Well, they extolled the virtues of the features that they added to the AirPods Pro last year, but are going to now be in the AirPods, and they talked about them again too. And then, of course, the AirPods Max, which is very weird because they acted really in that section. They acted like it was new, and it's basically not, other than some very minor changes. It's all this time has passed, and there's very little that's new about it. So. I agree. It's always going to be a challenge. I think my counter would be that they wanted to place these products in the context. I think it's really good that they mentioned the AirPods Pro, because not only do they have an announcement, which is the hearing aid stuff, which is very interesting, but also that way you can see the whole stretch of the AirPods product line. And I think that it gets weird when you don't talk about one of the key parts of the product line. In fact, their most popular parts. So putting it in that context, I get, but I can also get that if you're looking for the new, they had a lot of the old. The thing that I noticed was the vagueness. There's a lot of vagueness in these announcements. They're as if they weren't sure. Some of it was as if they weren't sure. I mean, I'm sure they record maybe alternate versions just in case things change, but it felt like they were either not sure or they were not willing to put a definitive item on it when they built the video. So the one that really struck me, first off, they didn't mention watch sizes. They didn't say here are the names of the millimeters of the two sizes. I had somebody come up to me who said
there were two.
There were two.
all.
Yeah, I had somebody come up and say, "Did they eliminate the smaller watch?" And it's like, "Well, no, they're both right here in front of us." But it was a real question.
It wasn't
what are they doing?
until I could reload the newsroom after the event to find out there was a small one. It was really, really weird.
And the one that I noticed that I thought was odd is while making superlative claims, longest iPhone battery life ever, they didn't say what the battery life was.
Yeah.
That's wild, right? Like, it's the longest ever. It's the best ever. And drum roll,
boosts,
and that is
huge jumps. Like, okay, well, what, you gonna tell us? No? Oh, okay then, fair enough. Because stuff like that, I mean, we'll get into that because I've done the digging, so I have numbers for you later on in the episode. But they are significant, so it's like usually you say something like it's like 10 minutes more. You know what I mean? Like, and again, it was like I don't even know if they didn't really talk about measurements of any kind, like the weight of the watches and all this kind of stuff. Like, I think they gave like 10%. I think they gave on
biggest
some of those.
Watch display ever.
It was odd.
Yeah,
it was odd.
I thought, like, for a presentation that included a discussion of improved memory bandwidth, it was interesting that a lot of things. They did say 9.7 millimeters for the thinness of it. So they did throw that in there. But a lot of the stuff was sort of like, oh, it's the biggest ever. It's the thinnest ever. It's the longest ever, with no detail, which I just found very weird for a video where you could boast about the detail. And instead they're like, meh, look it up on the internet.
Detail schmetail.
Yeah, I guess so.